So today we'll be dealing with hematuria evaluation and CA bladder. So as we have discussed in the past, we will run through it very quickly about signs and symptoms. Hematuria is presence of blood in the urine, and in adults hematuria is always regarded as symptoms of malignancy. So what is the American Urology Association best practice guideline? Definition of microscopic hematuria. ठीक है, 3 or more RBCs per high power field or microscopic evaluation. So 3 or more RBCs. If there is microscopic hematuria, to confirm again you have to repeat at least 2 to 3 times during analysis. So classification, it can be classified as gross or visible hematuria or microscopic or non-visible hematuria. So gross hematuria, visible hematuria will be a symptom, patient will come with that, and microscopic will be a sign. Patient cannot see with normal eyes, it will be visualized only in the microscopic examination. So hematuria can be classified as initial, total or terminal. Initial hematuria will be generally just before starting the act of micturition. It will be distal to external sphincter. It may be because of secondary to inflammation. Total hematuria means from the beginning till the end there will be blood mixed with urine. So it can be because of bladder or upper urinary tract pathology. Terminal hematuria, after completion of act of urination there will be hematuria. So there may be secondary to inflammation or infection in the bladder, neck or prostatic urethra. Clots are very important. Always ask in history about clots. If there are presence of clots, it indicates there is significant degree of hematuria, and the shape of clot is very gives a clue to diagnosis. The shape, if it is amorphous or abnormal or haphazard shape, mostly it is in the large cavity it has formed, so like bladder or prostatic urethra. But it is like thread-like, worm-like, vermiform, then mostly it will be from the ureter. If clot has formed in the ureter, it will take the shape of ureter. So when it comes out, it will be like worm-like or thread-like or vermiform in shape. So based on etiology, hematuria can be classified as glomerular, non-glomerular and essential hematuria. So various investigations which you have to do. First is urine analysis. It can be done by dipstick method, microscopy and cytology, and imaging is ultrasound and CT scan. So dipstick test has sensitivity of 95% and specificity of 75%. It indicates, positive dipstick indicates presence of heme, not necessarily blood. So it can be positive in hematuria. Apart from hematuria, it can be also positive in hemoglobinuria and myoglobinuria. So in that cases, you have to confirm it with microscopic exam. This is a rapid bedside dipstick test. So whenever you have doubt that it can be because in a trauma patient there may be myoglobinuria. So in myoglobinuria, then also dipstick will be positive. So you have to confirm it with urine microscopy. So these are various slides and color coding in a dipstick. How leukocyte, nitrate, urobilinogen, protein, blood, specific gravity, ketone, bilirubin, glucose can be assessed by various color codes. So once dipstick is positive, you have to always reconfirm it with microscopic examination of centrifuged urine. So these are the various findings. If erythrocyte is present, there is hematuria. If erythrocyte is absent in examination, RBCs are absent in examination, hemoglobinuria, the supernatant will be pink. In myoglobinuria, it will be clear. So this is the same thing what we discussed in the flow chart. Remember the flow chart. Always try to make flow charts in your exam. So what are the causes of heme negative red urine? Means it is not hematuria, but the urine color is red. So this thing you should be knowing. Good to know points. So what are the medication which can cause discoloration? That is discoloration of urine, like chloroquine, ibuprofen, nitrofurantoin, Phenazoparidine. Phenazoparidine is very commonly used drug for dysuria or burning micturition. Rifampicin, as you know, always gives orange color, but it is like reddish orange color. Food like beetroots, once few times when you eat too much beetroot, you may have a slightly reddish discoloration of urine. Blackberries. Apart from that, the various other metabolites which can cause reddish discoloration is methemoglobin, porphyrin, tyrosine, urates, bile pigments. So this we'll skip about the microscopy. Then cytology is very important. Urine cytology in cases of hematuria, urine cytology has to be done. So urine cytology, especially when you are suspecting a malignancy, especially transitional cell carcinoma. So it is a very important adjunct to cystoscopic examination. So cytology positive means most probably there is a high grade malignancy. So it is very important. So cytology can be obtained with in the urine via, like once a patient has passed urine, you can take that sample for cytology. If you want higher yield, you can put cystoscope and give bladder wash, so that cells will exfoliate and your yield of cytologic examination will increase, which is called as barbotage, bladder wash. So you can put catheter or cystoscope, give wash to bladder and collect that sample, so the cells will more exfoliate and the yield of the cytology will increase. So this is all you would have read already in medicine, so we will skip this part. So what are the, this thing is important, these things already you would have read, will not go through it. Physical examination finding: in case there is a severe dehydration along with hematuria, there is a one possibility of renal vein thrombosis, and this which is very difficult to diagnose, because the renal vein thrombosis, there will be hematuria, your bladder will be clean, your kidneys, renal pelvis, ureters will be clean, there will be no stone, no infection. Still then if there is a dehydration, suspect renal vein thrombosis, which can give rise to hematuria. Renal vein thrombosis you can diagnose by angiography, conventional, or CT, or a Doppler, renal Doppler can give a clue about renal vein thrombosis. If there is associated peripheral edema, it can be nephrotic syndrome or various vasculitis. In cardiovascular system, if there is a MI or atrial fibrillation, then there may be associated renal artery embolus or thrombus. If there is a hypertension, it can be seen in various glomerulosclerosis. If there is a bruit in the abdomen, there may be a AV fistula, renal artery and vein. And in genitourinary system, if there is a prostate is enlarged, or there is a tenderness in the prostate, pain in the prostate, UTI, if there is a palpable mass, renal cell carcinoma, if meatus is narrow, again you can suspect underlying infection. These are all. Now we will concentrate on CA bladder. Okay, we will go little bit transient hematuria. Transient hematuria, because this is a commonly encountered problem. You will see a lot of patients when you see in OPD or your ward rounds during history. The patient, young patient will come that I had hematuria. So and when you do examination, there may be mild hematuria, microscopic examination, but subsequent examination will be cleared, there will be no hematuria. So there are various causes of transient microscopic hematuria, which can be because of other infections, fever, trauma, or heavy exercise are the potential causes. So once you repeat analysis again, they will be normal. But in older individuals, always rule out malignancy in older individuals, especially with under risk, like a smoker, older individual, always rule out malignancy. Exercise induced hematuria, like long distance runner. So at the end of running, they can note hematuria, but subsequently once they take rest, this subsides. So it can be of renal origin or it can be of bladder origin. So glomerular origin RBC, always, as we have already known this thing, dysmorphic RBC, always suspect RBCs of glomerular origin. So this thing should be kept in mind. But if there is a dysmorphic RBC, patient gives history of exercise-induced hematuria, always try to rule out IgA, underlying IgA nephropathy. So don't disregard it as exercise-induced hematuria, it will settle. If you think the urine examination shows shape of RBC is dysmorphic, at least rule out IgA nephropathy. So what imaging you do? So this is a, once patient comes with hematuria, you have done intravenous urogram, your CT intravenous urogram. Okay. So if it is IVU is normal, still do a cystoscopy and cytology. If cystoscopy and cytology are normal, you can do ultrasound or CT scan. If that is normal, no further evaluation is required. But if CT shows renal mass, then you have to evaluate accordingly. If cystoscopy and cytology shows bladder growth, you have to do accordingly. If cystoscopy and cytology shows bladder is normal, but there is a hematuria from ureteric orifices, then see which you have to lateralize the hematuria, whether it is coming from right orifice or left orifice. So lateralizing hematuria. Then accordingly, whichever orifice the blood is coming, you have to pass a ureteric catheter, do retrograde urethrophy and take sample, upper tract cytology barbotate sample, and then observe. If it is normal, then you can get a CT. If it is normal, do a renal arteriography, because there is a hematuria on your cystoscopy. There is from one side of ureteric orifice blood is coming. So even if your RGU, cytology or CT is normal, you have to do a CT. If CT shows mass, you have to operate. But if CT is normal, then there is still, you suspect there is a renal artery aneurysm or AV malformation has to be ruled out. But if this retrograde urethrophy or cytology is abnormal, there is a filling defect, you can proceed with the S plan, surgery or cytology or biopsy. If IUVU is abnormal, if it abnormal means it can be a stone, to treat accordingly. There can be a filling defect in the renal pelvis or ureter. Then again you have to do retrograde urethrophy and cytology upper tract and proceed accordingly. If IVU shows any abnormal renal mass, do a CT. If it is a cyst or it is a solid mass, then you have to accordingly evaluate and proceed for the management. So now most important part is carcinoma bladder. So basically we will discuss etiology, staging and prognosis of the carcinoma bladder. So it is the 9th most common cancer worldwide. Peak incidence is 7th to 8th decade of life, more commonly in males. Why? Because of more exposure to smoking and environmental toxins. So smoking is one of the most important etiology. Smoking, tobacco is the most important etiology in cases of carcinoma bladder, apart from environmental toxins. It is more aggressive in white males. In adolescent and young adults, they develop generally well differentiated non-invasive kind of bladder cancer rather than invasive or aggressive one, or poorly. So young, generally they have well differentiated non-invasive variety. At old, they will have invasive and poorly differentiated variety, generally, not always. What are the etiologies? Most likely, as with all malignancy, genetic abnormalities, there will be external risk factors. Smoking is the most important cause. Nutritional, dietary factors, not taking adequate fluid intake, inflammation, chronic inflammation in the form of chronic indwelling catheter, long standing stone. These are the important etiology for, or there is a patent urachus. These are the very important causes of carcinoma bladder. And then chemotherapy and radiation, as in all cases, it can lead to malignancy, chemotherapy, radiation. So genetic, what are the implications? Several polymorphism have been implicated. One of the most important is NAT, N-acetyltransferase polymorphism is related to bladder cancer. Apart from glutathione S transferase conjugates arylamines and nitrosamines. So the null glutamine S transferase and slow N-acetyltransferase 2 leads to high level of 3-amino biphenyl, 3-amino biphenyl, 3AB, 3-amino biphenyl. Remember this 3-amino biphenyl is the most potent carcinogen. So glutathione S transferase and slow N-acetyl transferase will lead to high level of 3-amino biphenyl in transitional cell of the bladder, which is very high risk for developing carcinoma of the bladder. So what other genetic abnormalities? RAS and P21 expression, tumor suppressor gene like P53SS is common in all cancers. If you don't remember anything, just say tumor suppressor gene mutation P53, proto-oncogene expression RAS, loss of homozygous of chromosome 9, abnormality of cell cycle regulatory protein like K167 and cyclin D. These are basically for your theory things. So external risk factors, what are external risk factors? So important external risk factor, one is smoking, second is dye and rubber industries are very important risk factors for development of CA bladder. Dye and rubber industries. Primary culprits are aromatic amines that will bind to DNA. So benzidine and beta-naphthylamine. Benzidine and beta-naphthylamines. Primary culprits are aromatic amines that binds to DNA, benzidine and beta-naphthylamine. Apart from that, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, diesel exhaust and paint substances are also very important. So as we discussed, 4-amino, as I told you, 3 and 4-amino biphenyl is most definite aromatic amine association with urothelial cancer. Apart from that, benzopyrene, benzidine, beta-naphthylamine. 1 second. Hello? हाँ विवेक जी, हाँ बोलिए ना, कहाँ पूछे हो? अच्छा तो मैं एक बात करता हूँ उसको ना, अभी तुम्हें इधर आधा घंटा लगेगा मेरे को पहुँचने में हॉस्पिटल, तो मैं तो उनको वहीं वेट करने वाला, मैं उनको वहाँ भेज दूंगा देवता सर के पास संकल्प में, नेफ्रोलॉजी में, क्योंकि मेडिसिन दिखा सकते हैं मेडिसिन वाले को, लेकिन कोई मतलब नहीं रहेगा, मेडिसिन वाले तो वहाँ देख ही रहते ना, वही क्योंकि मेडिसिन वाले ऑलरेडी वहाँ देख ही रहे, ठाकुर सर देख ही रहे होंगे, तो कोई मतलब फिर से मेडिसिन वाले दिखाने को फायदा नहीं है। एक नेफ्रो को दिख, हाँ थोड़ी देर वेट करने बोलो, मैं हाँ हाँ ठीक। So definite 4 and 3 amino biphenyl, arsenic, benzopyrene, and these are the other probable and possible aromatic amines which are known to be culprit of causing CA bladder. So as I told you, smoking is very important risk factor. Always take history of smoking in any suspected malignancy of transitional cell origin. So smoking 2 to 6 times increases the risk of CA bladder. The intensity of duration is linearly related to the increased risk. So the amount of cigarette and duration of smoking is directly linearly related to the increased risk. As the duration and intensity increases, there will be higher risk of developing CA bladder. So as you know, more than 50%, actually it is written 50, but it is more than 50% bladder cancer is associated with smoking. So what are the nutritional factors? Slightly higher incidences, coffee and tea drinkers. Mediterranean diet has low risk of urothelial cancer. Fruit vegetable help in detoxification because they have polyphenols and antioxidants. And micronutrients and antioxidants like vitamin A, C, E, selenium, zinc have shown to decrease the risk of developing transitional cell malignancy. So as other thing is inflammation. As I told you, inflammation like chronic inflammation, chronic infection with schistosoma hematobium leads to squamous cell carcinoma. So there are 3 types of carcinoma more commonly seen. There are other varieties, less common varieties in CA bladder. One and most commonly 80% is transitional cell carcinoma. Second is squamous cell carcinoma. Third is adenocarcinoma of bladder. So now for squamous cell carcinoma, Most important risk factor is infection leads to squamous cell carcinoma. The most important chronic infection is Schistosoma hematobium, then chronic indwelling catheter, chronic long duration stone infection, recurrent infection, and chronic UTI with E. coli tuberculosis. This leads to squamous cell carcinoma. Infection and inflammation leads to squamous cell carcinoma. So other etiological factors like chemotherapy, that is cyclophosphamide. Cyclophosphamide, as you would have already read, it is has very high mutagenic potential because of the metabolic phosphoramide mustard which it secretes, phosphoramide mustard, which increases risk of carcinoma bladder up to 9-fold. So, and the bladder cancer which is developing is of higher grade. It infiltrates muscle. It can happen in a younger individual. And what is the latency period after chemotherapy with cyclophosphamide is 6 to 13 years. There will be latency for developing CA bladder. So patient might have received cyclophosphamide 10-12 years back, but still he can develop carcinoma bladder because of the after effects of the cyclophosphamide. So what is the protection is being used whenever you give cyclophosphamide? You also give infusion of Mesna, 2-mercaptoethane sulfonic acid. 2-mercaptoethane sulfonic acid. Mesna, 2-mercaptoethane sulfonic acid. This is a protectant which decreases the risk of cyclophosphamide induced malignancy of bladder. So this is always administered along with cyclophosphamide in patients who are receiving cyclophosphamide. Apart from other is radiation, because radiation for other causes like CA prostate or cervical cancer, cervix cancer, because the bladder also is in that same area, so it will also come in the effect of radiation. So that can lead to CA bladder. Hereditary genetic factors. So once the patient is having CA bladder, his first degree relatives had 2-fold risk of developing CA bladder because of hereditary and genetic lineage. Fluid intake, increased fluid intake, decreased concentration of carcinogen, decreased risk of cancer. The more fluid intake, the concentration of the carcinogen in bladder will be less, so less risk of developing fulminant bladder cancer. Alcohol and phenacetin has no evidence of risk. हेलो, हाँ वेट करने बोलो उनको, हाँ वेट करने बोलो, आधा घंटा आ रहा है, ठीक ठीक. Histology, histologically it can be a non-muscle invasive bladder cancer which includes papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential, PUNLM. Non-invasive, non-muscle invasive. So the previous old term was superficial and deep bladder cancer. So that has been removed now. It has been reclassified and re-termed as non-muscle invasive and muscle invasive. So as we have discussed in the previous classes, the layers of bladder. So one which is confined before the detrusor muscle. So in the mucosa. So it has not invaded the muscle. So non-muscle invasive, which was previously known as superficial bladder cancer. That is non-muscle invasive. Non-muscle invasive can be papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential. Then second, low and high grade urothelial cancer. And third is carcinoma in situ. Carcinoma in situ. Carcinoma in situ is always high grade. Carcinoma in situ is never low grade. Carcinoma in situ is always high grade. Okay. Then second is, apart from one is non-muscle, second is muscle invasive bladder cancer. So what is the TNM staging? You should remember this. So primary tumor Tx cannot be assessed. T0 no evidence. Ta non-invasive papillary carcinoma. Non-invasive papillary carcinoma. Ta. TIS is carcinoma in situ, which is always high grade. Carcinoma in situ. T1 tumor invades subepithelial connective tissue. Tumor invades subepithelial connective tissue. So till this time it is non-muscle invasive. From T2 onwards it is muscle invasive. What T1 invades? Muscularis propria. Muscularis propria means detrusor muscle. So T2 is tumor invading muscularis propria, detrusor muscle. Not muscularis mucosa. So there is a difference between, as you have already read in histological classes, muscularis mucosa and muscularis propria. Muscularis mucosa will be T1, but muscularis propria means proper muscle, detrusor muscle, will be T2. And T2A is in the superficial, T2B is deep muscularis propria. T2A is superficial muscularis propria, T2B is deep muscularis propria. Then T3 is, it invades the perivesical fat, perivesical tissue. Perivesical tissue is a fat. So it invades perivesical tissue, perivesical fat. See, so you can see here, this is perivesical fat globules, this is muscularis propria. T3 invades perivesical tissue, perivesical fat. T3A is microscopic involvement of perivesical fat. T3B is macroscopic, visible involvement of perivesical fat. So T3A you cannot detect without doing a biopsy or resection, but T3B can be seen in the imaging, CT or few good ultrasounds can show you this. While T4, as in all malignancies, invades surrounding organs like prostatic stroma, seminal vesicles, in female uterus, vagina, pelvic wall, abdominal wall. Okay, so T4 is, so T4A is PUV, remember with PUV, prostate, uterus, vagina, PUV. T4A, prostate, uterus, vagina. T4B is still beyond pelvic and abdominal wall. So this should be, TNM classification should be remembered very well. So about the regional lymph nodes. So N1 is single node in true pelvis. Single node in true pelvis. So remember HOPE, H-O-P-E, HOPE. Hypogastric, obturator, presacral and external iliac node. Hypogastric, obturator, presacral, external iliac, H-O-P-E, HOPE. Around the hypogastric node, around the hypogastric plexus. External iliac, around the external iliac artery or vessels. Common iliac, around the common iliac, presacral, in front of sacrum. So H-O-P-E, always remember H-O-P-E. N1 is single node in the HOPE, N2 is multiple nodes in the HOPE, N3 is, apart from HOPE, it is gone into common iliac. N3, common iliac and above will be N3. Common iliac will be N3 and above that maybe aortocaval, precaval, retrocaval, para-aortic, this will be all beyond. And distant metastasis, M0 is no distant metastasis, M1 with distant metastasis. So this thing is basic TNM classification, histopathology and histology, and then next class we will discuss the management of CA bladder.